This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
Howdy, everybody. Happy early Christmas. It is the week prior, so this will probably be our last video that we put out for the calendar year, and we'll be back in action in 2025. It is shocking that the year's over. This has been a busy year. It's obviously been a lot of surprises, a lot of ups and downs. I think, maybe as a point of wrapping up the year real quickly, we talked all year. Go back and watch the old videos, check the tape. That's the fun part about having recordings here. Is Hannah and I talked all year about our three-legged stool. What were the things that were going to drive the markets up this year? And it was going to be earnings, the Federal Reserve, and the presidential election. And I'd say that, pretty solidly, all those things came true. And here we're sitting having, another giant stock market year. And so that's great. Now, to be fair, stock markets go up. I've said many times that the stock market is a terrible, terrible measure of economic health. It is a very shallow beast. It goes up and down. It is excited. It is sad. The true economics of getting into wages and inflation and all these other things certainly function differently. I mean, even right now, if you want to talk about where a recession exists, just all you have to do is look at the car market. And the car market is completely cratering. If you need a new car, year-end prices are phenomenal. If you need a new car into 2025, there are probably going to be phenomenal deals on new cars over the next year or two. The market is a total mess. They have too much inventory. The cars are overpriced. They cannot sell them. It is pretty wild out there. So, it kind of just makes the point that maybe things aren't quite always as rosy as the headlines imply. So last week did a video, called it the mystery meat. We talk a lot about the excitement of what's happening, where the market's up. I focused a lot in last week's video about Trump policies. The point I was making was, look, we can talk all we want about stuff, but until the reality is, what's the point of getting too carried away on it? So until Congress gets seated in January, until Trump is in office, until they start voting on stuff, signing executive orders, we don't even know what's real and what's not real. I mean, one of those things is even the tariffs. There's a lot of anxiety about the tariffs. The reality is tariffs, I think, at the moment are more of, we'll say, threats in order to get other countries to cooperate on different levels. We will see. We don't know. But what is amazing, because I had some interesting feedback from last week's video where people, I don't know, maybe implied that I was punting a little bit instead of giving an opinion. And like I said, I'm going to give you all the opinions in the world. I told you how we thought the market would play out this year. It certainly played out like that. At the moment, it looks like the market's going to play out at least well for the moment next year. But my goodness, my friends, how things have changed, right? You go back pre-election, Trump was the worst person on earth. He was, Hitlerian. He was this horrible human being. And this week, he is the Time Person of the Year. And that's interesting, right? Because we were all told how terrible he is. So why has the rhetoric changed? Why is the stock market up? What is going on that is creating this weird phenomenon? And as much as I don't want to talk too much about the policies until Congress gets through on them, something happened even since I made that video last week that I thought was great. Trump comes out with a policy that he puts out and he says, hey, you know what? Anybody who's willing to invest $1 billion in the United States, we're going to, we'll say, speed up their regulatory process. We're going to make sure that they get those permits approved in a more timely manner. Instead of it taking years to approve things, we want to create economics. We want to create jobs. We want to grow. And I thought, wow, what a great optimistic thing. Hey, if the big boys want to come in and put money into the U.S. and hire and build and do positive things, what is wrong with that? And so that was last week. And then just this morning on the news, if you're all watching CNBC, Trump's sitting there with the SoftBank dude who says, hot diggity dog, I like Trump policies. I'm willing to invest $100 billion in the US. And you're like, whoa, this is going to create 100,000 jobs, whatever this plan is. Like, oh my gosh, no, these are the reasons that people are excited all of a sudden. This kind of stuff is what drives the market. All of the visceral, sensory, scammy stuff that we've all been fed about, the dictator monster, here it is playing out. He's trying to figure out good quality ways to grow the economy and create jobs. This I thought was very fascinating. This also came out last week. So this is the Small Business Optimism Index. This thing just skyrocketed after November. If you can see it on the chart here, it just went up in a straight line. You can actually see, Biden came into office in, the beginning of 21, and this thing essentially cratered and stayed flat. This is the survey of business owners and people who are optimistic about policies, about regulations, about the U.S. economy. And so kind of goes back to that theme that, this guy is so bad and so detrimental and so problematic for the U.S. economy. Why is it that behind the scenes, consumer sentiment is up, business owner optimism is up? We're coming out with policies that are very favorable. So there's just a lot going on. Once again, I'm holding my breath to see what happens when Congress comes in. Will Republicans become their own worst enemies as they've been in the past and spend more time fighting with each other instead of getting together and making things happen? We're going to find out. They got a couple years to figure it out. CNBC just posted this morning. Majority of Americans are ready to support Trump and large parts of his agenda. Well, this is weird. I was, under the impression he had a terrible agenda and everything was bad. CNBC is not known as a right-leaning outlet. I mean, Forbes is not a right-leaning outfit here. MSNBC is not a right-leaning outfit. It's amazing how all of these things are really starting to create a different trajectory of what's been going on. Once again, boil it all down. All that we care about here at the Lind Group is your personal finances, the things that are going to be important to you, certainly tax policy and regulations that impact inflation so that you can pay the bills and eat lunch. Let me digress to something else, though. If you've been in my office in the last year, I have shown you some kind of chart like this. This isn't exactly what it looks like, but this chart I saw online and said, oh my gosh, this is the chart I keep kind of talking about. And so what I've talked about a lot is the Federal Reserve historically, when they have inflation hit, if you go look at 100 years of inflation, inflation is a double dip monster, a double bump monster rather. And that is inflation comes up, the Fed step in to save the day. They raise rates to slow the economy down and pump the brakes. And then inflation rolls over. And then they say, hallelujah, we won. And they start cutting rates and printing money. And every other time period in history, it's created a much larger bout of inflation. So the last time we had major inflation was in the 70s and 80s. And so this dotted orange line, if you can see it on the chart, this first big spike peaks out at 1975. And then inflation rolls over. And then it has a massive spike in 1981 with much more inflation. That's when Volcker had to come in, raise the Fed funds rate to 20+%. I think it was 22% to try to stifle inflation by damaging the economy. And so what's fascinating about this history lesson, and the thing that I harp on a lot when people come in the office, is this blue line is showing current inflation. And it was amazing because what I show you in my office normally is a different chart that says, I show you this spike in current inflation and how it's gone away. And then I go back and I show you the 80s and 70s one. This is a nice chart because they've overlaid the two on each other. But it's really shocking to look at this and say, oh my gosh, current inflation is following the exact historical trend of the 70s. And we're now sitting at the bottom of where we were last time, that same moment in the late 70s when the Federal Reserve said, hallelujah, we done it all, we saved it all. And what's happening right now in 2024? The Federal Reserve started cutting again and printing money, and they keep saying that inflation is under control. In fact, in 2 days from now, on the 18th, the Feds are going to do probably another quarter-point rate cut. So it is a little concerning that history so far has exactly repeated itself. we will see, I guess, if the Federal Reserve is smarter this time and somehow can stave off the idea of a large spike in inflation. Obviously, I think the counterbalance is growth in the economy. If the economy is really growing well, you can create hopefully more supply to eat up demand if that's the case. So we'll see. But I just really enjoyed seeing this chart online. In any case, that's all we got. To that point, Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas next week. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. Try to do something nice for someone you don't know. Be a little selfless. This is the season of giving. This is the season to think of Christ. This is the season for a lot of positive external things. So I would encourage that. I hope everybody has a wonderful New Year's. Obviously, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, never hesitate to reach out to our office, 805-500-7035. You can certainly visit our main website, thelindgroup.com. But it's been a good year. I know it's been very tumultuous for all of us. I know there's been a lot of anxiety and stress, but the good news is these things will pass. Our country, our world has always dealt with difficult moments, and we've always gotten past them. So in any case, best of wishes to all of you, and we'll talk to you soon. Now I got to find my video, which I always fail to have teed up.